The year in question is the 1962-63 season of Wilt Chamberlain, the year after he averaged 50 points per game and broke hundreds of records. He continued his dominant ways by having yet another historically great season from a statistical standpoint. He averaged 44.8 points per game on 53% shooting, 24.3 rebounds per game, and 3.4 assists per game. Here are the current records that he holds. He recorded the second highest points per game average, the 6th highest rebounds per game average, the 9th highest PER, and the 10th highest win shares for a single season in NBA history. He was a complete monster. But look at the record his team had. The San Francisco Warriors went 31-49. So here's the question. How much of the blame can we reasonably put on Wilt Chamberlain for missing the playoffs for the first and only time in his career? Because the numbers that he put up were insane. He obviously led the league in both points and rebounds, but he also had the highest field goal percentage, win shares, offensive win shares per 48 minutes, and PER in the league. He was still undeniably the best player in the world. We just can't ignore the dozens upon dozens of records that he broke just because his team underperformed. But then we look at the competition of the league that season, and it's hard to give him a full-on pass for not carrying his team to the playoffs. 6 of the 9 teams in the NBA made the postseason during that time, so all you had to do was be better than 3 other teams. That doesn't sound like such a burdensome task. What I'm going to do is give both sides of the case. Let's start with everything Wilt did right that season. There were 30 total games where he scored over 50 points. To put that in perspective, the player that's recorded the second most career 50-point games is Michael Jordan, and he's had 31 total. At this rate, it's hard to imagine anyone passing him in career 50-point games. It will nearly surpass what MJ did in his career in just one season. Out of those 30 games, there were 3 times where he scored over 70 points, and 6 other games where he scored at least 60 points. This is only the second time that a player has posted multiple 70-point games in the same year. The other time, as you would have guessed, came in Wilt's 1961-62 season. His season high came against the New York Knicks when he had 73 points and 14 rebounds. That almost felt like a letdown compared to the 100-point game that he had against them in the prior year. Let's talk about a few other record-breaking performances that he had. There's a game against the Syracuse Nationals when he had 70 points on 71% shooting, 18 rebounds, and 3 assists. This is only the 3rd time that a player shot over 70% from the field while scoring over 70 points. Then there was a game against the Lakers where he had the rare stat line of 63 points and 30 rebounds. We also have his performance against the Detroit Pistons where he had 50 points and 41 rebounds. That is only the 5th time that a player has recorded over 50 points and 40 rebounds in a game, which were all done by him. As far as his advanced metrics go, he is only one of 6 players to reach over 20 win shares for a season. That just shows how valuable he was to his team. The Warriors were not a strong team by any stretch of the imagination, due to the various changes in the offseason that caused the roster to be severely depleted. The biggest change was that the franchise was relocated to the city of San Francisco. This was a major move, and not all the players on the team could afford to move their families out west. So that caused the Warriors' second leading scorer, Paul Arizin, to retire. Then the team's 3rd leading scorer, Tom Gola, was asked to be traded to an Eastern Conference team after playing only 21 games. Now all of a sudden, Wilt was stuck with a team that was dreadful on offense, and they were even more horrendous on defense. They allowed 120.6 points per game, which was the worst in the league. Sports Illustrated described the team this way, quote, "The whole dull show was Wilt Chamberlain, who averaged 44.8 points per game, while the rest of his team forgot to score. The Warriors defense was beyond disparagement because there was no Warriors defense. When the ball got to Chamberlain, the rest of the Warriors would react as if they were watching a spectacular Pacific sunset. They would be open-mouthed and motionless because Wilt Chamberlain leads the world in taking shots." End of quote. You gotta love the journalism of the 60s. As harsh as he sounded, he wasn't wrong. It seemed like Wilt's solution to the team's incompetence was to win games by himself. I know we say that a lot for players who are in similar situations, but this is the one time where we mean this quite literally. Once the ball reached his hands, it was not going back out. Let's be honest. How would you expect the team's morale to be when a player scores 53 points on 23 of 60 shooting while dishing out only 2 assists? And here's something else. There are 5 other times where he had over 40 shot attempts and 0 assists. He took ball hogging to a whole other level. That is not a recipe for success, no matter how talented a player is. For the basketball purists that existed at the time, it was no surprise that the Warriors went through an ugly stretch where they lost 14 of 15 games, which also included an 11-game losing streak. Although he averaged 47.9 points per game, he still wasn't doing enough to help his team win. He learned the hard way that he was never going to be considered a winner if he tried to score 100 points every game. But in the final 20 games of the season, something changed. He started to get his teammates involved more, and they were winning more than they had all year long. They went 9-11, and Wilt averaged 42.7 points per game, 25.1 rebounds per game, and 5.4 assists per game during that span. He posted 3 triple-doubles, which was something he never accomplished prior to that season. That included a 50-point triple-double that he had against the Pistons. It was a positive sign that he was willing to change. And it was a perfect setup for the following year, where he ended up having one of the greatest individual seasons of all time. But he learned the hard way that if he was going to get to the next level, he needed to learn how to win as a team.